All right, welcome, gentle viewers, to Mazecast episode 9. We're going to be talking about Room 27 tonight. I hope you two got a bunch of good stuff to say about this. I don't know that I've got a lot to say. You know, the last few weeks I've had so little to contribute to Maze because I've been so busy. It's hard for me to remember how exactly I had the free time to look at Maze 12 hours a day before then. I still had a job and kids then too, but somehow I was always finding the time. All right, Beals, Andrew is here with us. He's going to be introducing the room. And Alex S.P. Speverson is here as well. Actually, I cut off your opportunity to play the Maze theme music.
I think I'm going to save that for another time.
Okay. Then it's a secret. I didn't even say it. Forget that. Okay, Andrew, you ready to start in with room 27?
Sure. Okay, so I picked room 27 in the first place last week because, from an admittedly Abyss-centric point of view, I noticed that it's one of the rooms where we still have only one point on the puzzle meter, which I find a bit frustrating because there's not a whole lot to this room, and I feel like we've bounced a whole lot around, and I feel like we ought to be able to, at least I think that we've even if White Raven doesn't agree, I think that we've come up with some pretty satisfactory things, and I'll just recap them briefly. But first of all, let me just point out the fact that this is not a particularly high-stakes room, and the reason that it's not particularly high-stakes is that even if we make the wrong choice and go to 9, and the only reason 13 is the right choice is because it's slightly closer to getting us back to room 1 and out of the loop. But even if we do happen to choose room 9, we're still in a position based on where this is in the loop and based on the fact that some of the doors are only one way. Our position is such that all we would do in 9 is meander around for a little while, not actually be susceptible to falling into any traps, just sort of be in this little self-contained corner of the loop and eventually exit either, well, actually we can't get back to here from 9, but we would get back to 13 eventually, and that's how we would find our way back out of the loop. So this is a pretty safe room. Even though there's a correct choice, it's not the most dangerous room in the maze, and I think that may have informed the reason why Manson chose to include that quote, "Fata viam invenient," or "Fata viam invenient," if you like that pronunciation, which is from Virgil. That's from the Aeneid, and the context of that quote is actually Jupiter. He says, I don't remember exactly what it says, but it's something like, "It's all the same to me. The fates will find a way." There is no question mark, which we could talk about. We could possibly question why Manson decided to include that question mark, because that's not part of the original quote. But basically, I think that could be a way. It may function. It may serve different functions, but it may be a way of Manson telling us that that this isn't a room where we're really putting it out on the line by making a choice, and we can sort of just leave it up to fate and decide. Another possibility that I think of for that quote is that, following up on what we talked about last week, we mentioned the idea that that illusions in the maze that are of more a classical literary bent may serve a different function and may be pointing toward the identity of the guide. And so it's possible that this quote might need to go on that shelf, and we may need to consider it in that context, but it's too early to tell in that case. But so that's basically the story of where this room is in the maze and what's at stake here. And so we have, well, first off, I'll just point out the one solution that, again, this is Abyss-centric, but I'll point out the one solution that has been confirmed, which is one of Vince's, which is the fact that when you look down at the number 9 and the 5 planks of wood that are surrounding it on either side, you can make an X111 or a 13, which is, of course, Roman numerals, which goes perfectly well with the Latin quote. So I like that. White Raven likes that. Everyone likes that. But obviously there's more to unpack in this room. And obviously the centerpiece is the statue, which I think we're all pretty well in agreement is the statue of the Hermit from the tarot card deck. and especially the indicator of that is the lantern in particular, and the fact that it's associated with the entrance to 9, and the fact that the hermit is number 9 among the major arcana. And the curious thing is the blindfold, but I'll get back to that. The fact that the blindfold doesn't show up much in depictions of the hermit on different cards. But when you look at the statue, you can certainly see that the shadow appears to be pointing toward the spade. And so that brings us to this sort of whole playing card. We've got this Fate Tarot playing card suits theme all sort of tying together in this room. We have the heart over the unmarked door from 20, and we have the spade over 13. And it's very simple to say, okay, maybe what the statue is trying to tell them is the shadow of the statue is pointing toward the actual spade on the floor, indicating that we should go to 13. But as far as the playing card theme goes, let me say a little bit more, because obviously with the heart and the spade, people have been really inclined to try to work a club and a diamond in there however they can. And it's been bandied about quite a bit that the baseball bat could be a club, and a couple of people have proposed diamond possibilities. I suggested that the baseball bat also suggests a baseball diamond, so it could maybe be pulling double duty. I think it was Anchorperson Smith who noticed that the little studs on the door of 13 are diamond-shaped, which I think is even better. In fact, it's much better because mine was kind of just throwing it out there. But White Raven likes these ideas, but said that they're not necessary to solving the room. And I'm not sure that we need to get fixated on the idea that there has to be a diamond, and even that there has to be a club in this room. I'm not sure that the baseball bat necessarily needed to be a club, although I don't really know what else you would do with it in that case. And that brings me to the only other connection that I can think of that it has to anything else in the room was one that was pointed out by Mr. Gentile, which is the proximity of the cat and the bat, and the fact that they rhyme seems to suggest that some kind of wordplay might be going on there. I think Mr. Gentile maybe takes it a little too far with his with the jugglings of letters that he does in that case and in some other cases, but I think he's right to point out that it does seem deliberate that the bat and the cat are so close together. The cat, obviously, as it's been said by Mr. Gentile and I think also by Greg, that the cat so close to 13 might be a pointer of superstitions. Doesn't really seem to be a black cat, but I think the connection is still there and it's available to make. So that's all I can really make of the cat for the time being, and so that accounts for most of the things. Okay, so let me just briefly recap Greg's big theory is that he considers there to be a fate versus free will thing going on in this room, where the host, the guide, doesn't want the entrance to 9 to be open. He would rather it be covered up, and yet somebody has been working deliberately to thwart his desires and open that entrance back up. And so, according to Greg, that sort of represents the free will option. 13 represents the fate option, but between things like the Fata Via Invenient and textual clues like the fact that he herds the group through the door, Greg is suggesting that what this means is that we should surrender ourselves to fate rather than choosing the free will option. And to that I would add something I don't think he pointed out, that the text does say, I herded the group through the door, when it had already identified the room 9 portal as an entrance. And I feel like there could be something there because, I mean, obviously you would call it door 9 in terms of like gameplay mechanics, like there are this many doors or whatever, but it's really not a door. Like there is no open and shut wooden or otherwise plate. So you could see that being the door automatically just forcing us right to 13 because it's the only marked valid door that's actually in the room. So that could possibly be an add-on to Greg's idea. And I'll just say a little bit more now. I'm going to talk a little bit about something that I've already brought up and something that hasn't been responded to at all by White Raven, but I think is pretty valid. And that concerns the blindfold on the Hermit statue, because as I said, when you look at Rider-Waite and other classic portrayals of the Hermit in the Tarot deck, you don't see a blindfold. And the blindfold really seems to be at odds with the whole point of the Hermit, which is the idea of going on a journey and undergoing introspection and coming to some new insight and coming back with new revelations. I think the fact that this statue has a blindfold on is a clue that we need to take our knowledge of what the hermit represents from tarot and realize that that's not actually what we're going to get in this case. Because if we go down 9, all we're going to do is wander around the loop for a little bit and end up coming right back here, no closer to room 1 or the center of the maze than we ever were. And so I think that the blindfold on the hermit statue is a warning that you can go that way, and you can go on that quest, you can wander around for a little while, but you're not going to get the insight that you think that this statue is promising. And I like that solution because it's not just a generic bad door marker, but it really it's an accurate prediction of what's going to happen if you go through door 9. The fact that you're just going to wander around, come back. Eventually, you're going to have to go back to room 13, no matter what, even if it's through, I think, room 18 instead of this one.
I really like that. I really like that.
I think that's valid, and that's what there's. So that's like that's my best interpretation of the hermit statue, and we know that we're still looking for that. Like I think White Raven said that Mr. Gentile was on the right track with identifying it as the hermit, but said that he didn't have the meaning right, and I really feel like there's something there. But so I'll wrap this up with just one more little thing that actually is something that you, Alex, pointed out in the chat just earlier today. You pointed out that the sign over door 13 is of a very curious shape. It's shaped like an open book, maybe, or in any case, it's certainly unusual and probably unique in the maze. And we've seen from things like room 33, the bottomless room, that the specific shape of these signs can be significant and can be part of a solution. So I think it's worth thinking about maybe what he might have been intending with that very unusual sign shape. The only thing I can think of is that if it really is a book, if it really is supposed to represent a book, then a book it's symbolic of information, and it's symbolic of information in a particular form that you have to be able to see in order to take in. So you're faced with this one door, which is kind of knowledge on one hand, and this other door, which is this guy is blindfolded and he can't read it, and he's like that knowledge is completely inaccessible to him. So you're choosing basically knowledge or wandering around.
I like that.
I don't think that's great, only because I don't know that that's really supposed to be a book, and maybe it leans a little too heavily on the idea. I don't know if Manson would trust that we would look at that and think, oh, that looks like a book. Oh, knowledge versus ignorance.
Well, no, like in a more abstract term, it's enlightenment versus blindness, right?
Yeah. No, I think the symbolic choice is great. I think maybe Manson wouldn't have banked on us looking at the shape of that signpost and saying, oh yeah, it looks like a book. But I think that's one thing that we could. So I think that we should talk about. I mean, if anybody has any insights about that, if anybody has any insights about what the question mark could be suggesting in the Latin quote, or just trying to hash out the hermit statue, if there's anything more to hash out there, and trying to see what's going on with the bat and the cat. I think those are really the things that we need to.
I think somebody mentioned in the it was either the Abyss or the Google chats. The other thing that rhymes with the cat and bat is slat, which is basically what
Alex, do you know who said that?
No, that wasn't me. It was somebody else who came up with that, but it's a nice one.
It was hidden mystery. Do you understand what you're doing?
Oh, yeah, maybe I shouldn't go down that path. No, but I did want to say back to what Beals was talking about with the Fata VM in Vehement is in Latin you could flip-flop the words around in the sentence and it would still mean the same thing because it's one of those languages where each word, like the suffix of each word determines the placement of the word as opposed to the actual placement of the word, if you know what I mean. It's sort of like French. I know French. And it's the same sort of, you can't do it in French because French is just weird. But in Latin, it's a great language because you can do that. You can shuffle the words around, and it could mean other things. So I don't think this is really a thing, but I think it's cool to mention is that you could say, you could sort of flip-flop the words around to what do the fate, or sorry, what was it was the fates will.
Fates will find a way.
Right, so you could flip flop that to like will the fates decide, and then the question mark makes sense because, if you have any Latin background, then you'll know that whole flip flop aspect of the language. You can just rearrange the words. And another thing, the reason I mentioned that is because I think Manson knew that because another thing about Latin was they didn't use spaces in between words, and he doesn't use spaces in between words here either. So I think there's something going on there more linguistically, like grammatically in Latin.
Yeah, I don't remember. I think maybe I think if it were posed as a question in Latin, I think it might either be exactly like this, or maybe it would be invenient fata viam. Maybe you would move the verb up to the beginning if it were a question. I forget exactly, but either way, as you say, since it's not an isolating language like English, I forget what the word is for it, but since they make use of those markers to determine syntax, you're right. You can rearrange the words however you want and get the same meaning.
And that's another at the beginning of Fata Viam Invenient because, there's, what I mean? Cat, bat, fat at the beginning of that.
Oh.
Hey, there you go. Oh yeah, just before I forget it, I also noticed that there's 2 V's in the sentence and 3 I's, which obviously equal 13.
Oh yeah, because V is 5.
That's just a side note. I don't know if Manson actually meant for that, but you never know.
Interesting.
Well, there's an M in there too that you'd have to disregard.
I know. I mentioned that before too. I was saying if you're gonna take it for Roman numerals and the M is 1,000, but
I think you can
yeah,
say.
I don't think it's a Manson.
If there were an X in there, you'd have a much harder. I mean, you'd have.
Yes, exactly. I think the X would make a difference.
You could get an IX, for 9, and that would be a problem. But yeah, I think we can probably learn if we want.
Well, back to the 13 sign. Like I'm always about the process of elimination. Like in the sense that if it's not an open book, what else could it be? Like he doesn't shape signs for no purpose. Like when he has his normal looking signs, they're pretty normal looking. They're just like tacked to the wall or whatever, and there's nothing that crazy about him. But this one, he definitely made it a shape, and it's like I'm thinking just process of elimination. It's not an open book. What else could it be? It sort of looks like a reverse arrow, but you don't see a lot of that in the game. So, in that respect, I think it is an open book for that reason alone. And I think it fits gracefully very well with your theory. You know what, Beals? I think you cracked it. I think that's basically it. Is the hermit, but he's blinded, so he can't see shit, and the other door is the right one. I think that's all it comes down to. And then combined with his shadow finger pointing to the spade, and the spade's there.
I like it only because
I like it. I like it.
I like it only because I think it's fairly accessible in that anybody who has any familiarity with tarot should be able to pretty quickly recognize that the blindfold is not a classic part of the hermit getup, and therefore there's probably some kind of twist on what the hermit is supposed to be.
The thing is, though, and I'm not to dispute that he's the hermit because it seems like that's what it's got to be, but why does this guy look so different from the hermit on any set of tarot cards we can find? I mean, the hermit is always an old dude with a long beard. He usually has a staff along with the lantern, and he's usually wearing like robes, not a toga.
Well, the robes for the toga I'll spot, but you're right that the lack of the beard and the staff are kind of big.
Yeah, and he's definitely not a fate either. The fates were 3 women who had a strand of thread, so he's not related to the saying. Yeah, he's a weird character, but the compelling thing is to get to that line of thinking where it's like he's a blind man, so the door that he's showing you, number 9, is not correct. Does he really have to be the hermit for that law to still apply? I don't think so. He can still be a blind dude, and the way that he's leading is false because he's blind, like, for that reason alone. I mean, I still like Beals' solution, but I'm just saying, like, I don't necessarily think if you dispute the fact that he's the hermit, then I think that's okay because the message is still there. But it's the lantern, I think the lantern is definitely a part of the hermit, and that sort of tears me between.
I agree. I mean, and another thing we haven't mentioned is that you reach this room, or you can reach this room by going through room 20, which has the very explicit tarot card of the tower. So then you go through there, through a door that's right by that tarot card, and you come in here. And yeah, the hermit is a dude with a lantern, and it's number 9. It seems like it's got to be intentional, but I just don't get why the statue doesn't look like any version of the hermit that we can find. I think it's enough that it's a dude with a lantern above the number 9. I think that pretty strongly suggests the hermit, but
especially combined with the other card motifs in this room and the other fake motifs in this room. I think that all ties into the tarot really well. But I agree with you. It is weird that he doesn't have the beard and stuff.
I mean, I think it's adequate evidence, but again, like I think even without that, it's a pretty convincing evidence. Like everything, all combined, like the X111 and the slats, as Mystery would say. All
I mean,
the card stuff.
You could say that this figure appears to be younger than the classical hermit, hence the lack of beard and the lack of staff because he doesn't limp. And that
Maybe it's because of May's time. He's actually back in time. He's on time AZ, and so he's a young hermit.
I was just going to say he doesn't have the wisdom of the old hermit, but that could work too. That could be it. It's because we're right by 13. We're right by the time run. So how the time works in the maze. So that could be it.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, I never saw that as a blindfold before, but I mean that makes sense. I just looked at it, and I could never understand what was going on. I was like, why does he have no eyes? But
yeah,
right.
like I sort of thought he was roughly hewn, like the ones in the ape room, like the ape trap room. But yeah, like now that he mentions it, yeah, that's.
I've always seen it as. I didn't realize that was not accepted. I honestly think.
He could be wearing really cool Oakley shades as well.
Let me say some stuff.
Yeah.
I'll do the bad stuff first, and then I'll move on to something that I think is actually pretty good. I don't know what's going on with a lot of the stuff in here. The question mark on the Fata VM Inveniant, I don't know what the deal is with it, but I would note that the shape of a question mark sort of appears in different places in the room, like the door handle on 13 is sort of shaped like a question mark.
Especially the dot below it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you look at the spade on top of room 13, you see at the top it's kind of got like a weird, like almost bulge at the tip of it. Like it doesn't just come to a point end, it kind of goes up and then... But anyway, that's the edge of that thing is kind of like a... And it's the same on a heart too, but that's just kind of the way a symbol is. It's kind of like a question mark shape. But I think the spade in particular, if you follow the edge of it, is kind of like a question mark with like a dot at the end, the way that spade is made.
I agree. But I think the only reason that happens is not because there's a difference in the outline, but just because there's one little extra line on the spade. Like if you ignore that one little extra line, it seems to be wrong.
Yeah, I see it. It's the one. Yeah. I don't have 20/20 vision, but it's not that fine a line. It's there.
Okay. What else I got here? There's some. I mean, the spade is the black suit. Clubs, if you buy that, it's a black suit. I always took that to be a black cat by 13, but I gotta admit it's hard to justify why it's not that black all over. I guess I just assumed it was meant to be a black cat because it was by room 13, and I assumed that there was this bad luck link going on between them. But I don't know. Maybe it is just a cat.
Well, there's room 4, so you would associate it with that because you might have been to room 4 before seeing this thing.
Maybe. I mean, yeah.
I don't think it matters if it's black. I mean, he paid special attention to making the front of the cat white, so.
Yeah.
And it's a picture. It's not like it's an actual cat with a light going off it. It's a picture of a cat, so I think it's significant that he made the front of the cat white to ensure that you're not thinking black cat.
Fine. I just can't.
But no, but it also makes me wonder because I remember I always well in some of the podcasts I've stressed this that the White Raven has said that there are certain techniques that Manson would use, or not Manson, but puzzles in general use, and one of them is the process of repetition, where it's like you have patterns, so you have like cat, bat, and then you're trying to find something else because that's the logical pattern, is you're looking for a third object that either rhymes with that or is related to them. Well, I guess the only way to relate them is to rhyme them. And that's why I thought the slat thing was funny, but is there anything else in this room that really rhymes with that? I don't think so. I don't see it.
I wonder if you only need those three, and the reason why I'm wondering that is because that could be... I mean, it's not great, but that's a little solution in itself if you want to say you've got bat, cat, and slat. You have the slats, which are over-associated with room 9, and you have the bat and the cat, which are both over-associated with room 13. You could see that as the two of them sort of outweighing the slats, and thus see that as a reason to go for 13.
I don't think, you know what though? I think Vince is right. Those are not slats. Slats are more, they're thinner. They're more, that's different. Those are not slats. Those are 2x4s.
You know what I love about what just happened? I never even spoke up to say that those are not slats. I've never said it on the Abyss or anywhere else, but I was absolutely just waiting to say it, and you knew it.
You're not fucking slats.
You're like, I think this is right. Those are not slats. I didn't even have to. I didn't even have to say it. You just knew I was going to shit on someone's solution.
Well, no, that and I think, yeah, there was that sort of moment of suspension. I knew you were gonna say it, so I just beat you to the punch. Anyway, no, but you know, how do you know? You know, maybe that is the riddle of this room. Is like, what is the third thing that ends in AT? Is there one? Is it in the text? Is it in the picture? I don't think it's in the text.
Take a minute and look at the text.
No, I'm just talking shit. I don't think there's a third at word there. Unless you're talking fat on the beginning of the placard.
Yeah. Which
doesn't help you much.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing, the hermit seems to be, although blindfolded, looking towards 13, and the text mentions herding the group to the door, and his hand motions do seem to be sort of ushering towards the door.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that.
Well, I think Beals, said an interesting point. This is not a high stakes room, so I don't like. I think he's been a little more sort of mild in his clues. Like, it's pretty. He's only given a certain number of clues. I don't think there's like it's not a concentrated room. It's not a 45. It's not a I don't know. It's not a 4. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think there's a lot of risk in this room. So, you know, it's sort of mild. You know, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, that's true of the majority of the loop, though. I mean, 35, 33, 3, 16, 36, 7, 5, 18. All these rooms, all they do is that you have to filter through them eventually to get back to room 10, 41, 1. They're all low-stakes rooms. So kind of...
Got it. Yeah.
And this one does seem to be a little more dense than some of the other ones, especially some of the outdoor ones.
Here's what... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Alex, while I agree with your general logic, it's worth keeping in mind that if nothing else, I think White Raven thinks that there's something more going on here that could be solved. So.
Oh no, I totally agree. Like, I've always, like, me and Vince have always tried to crack these points just because we've got an end game in sight. Like, we're trying to find out who the fucking guide is, right? And like, it's like by solving them, it's almost like, you know, running in slow motion. You're just, well, no, that's a really bad example. I don't even know why I said that, but it's just, I don't know. We're trying to get to a goal here, and it's like, I do feel like I'm running in slow motion because we're solving this thing so slowly. But we're getting there. Like, I think this was good. I think Beals sort of nailed it here with the whole juxtaposition between the doors and their goals. I think it's also worth mentioning that there's a huge amount of attention paid to door 9, but not that much paid to 13. Like, he's talking about, oh, you know, I didn't want this door seen. Well, why not? Like, it's not that important. Like, why do you want to hide it so badly? Like, Is there some other reason you don't want to hide it? Should we be investigating that?
I'm glad you said that, because that segues into what I think is a good solution to the room. Now, this is not an overarching solution that brings everything together, but this is a solution that, if I had thought of just this on its own, I would have thought that it's sufficient to send me going to 13th. And here's what it is. Or let me start on the point you're saying. The question is, why would the guide want to cover up this pathway to 9 anyway when that's the wrong pathway? Who cares if people go the wrong way? We know
Exactly.
from other places in the book the guide is not looking to help these people out. So that's always been kind of a mystery in this room. Why is he concerned about covering up this pathway? But here's what the deal is. There is not enough dirt in this room to cover up that pathway. There are no piles of dirt that could cover up that pathway. Where are there piles of dirt? On the other side in 9. Now, you don't have to know that to get what I'm saying, but I'm just pointing out.
Yeah. There's way more dirt in 9.
Right. What that means is the people who are digging the tunnel had to dig from 9 to 27. They didn't dig from 27 to 9, because wherever they started digging from, that's where the dirt's going to pile up. And then as they dig the tunnel, they have to move the dirt back out of the tunnel, and it piles up in 9.
I never thought of that. This is all new.
You don't have to go to 9 to realize that's what's going on. The fact that there's no dirt piled up in 27 is enough to tell you that. And so what we know is that someone dug a tunnel to get from 9 to 27, and the guide is upset about it, which both of those things suggest that the correct way to move is from 9 to 27. In other words, going back to 9 is the wrong way.
And also, you can't get back to 27 from 9 once you get there, which would be in correlation with the guy's wishes for you not to go back there, right?
Yeah, now that's a weird thing, that after going through there you can't come back, when we know this is just a tunnel that's been dug between the two. There are other places, I mean, every other place where you've got a one-way door, you can imagine there's something in the middle that stops you from going back. There's a doorway that we don't see that locks from one side. But this wasn't even an intentional connection. It was just a hole. So it seems kind of strange that you can't come back through it. I wonder whether the fact that you can't come back through it is maybe another, again, suggestive of the way of the narrator existing in more than one place at a time. So like once you go through it, the narrator in another form is filling up the hole or something. I don't know. Who cares? The point is,
confirming the fact that he's malevolent.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I just mean in terms of...
Which is realized in 24 at the end when you lose.
Yeah.
Right? That he's malevolent because he doesn't give a shit about what happens to them.
Anyway, so I think that certainly suggests that going to 9 is not the right way. Moreover, even if that didn't, it seems pretty clear that whoever dug the hole came from 9 to 27, and then the guide is saying, they're talking about catching up with the workmen if they hurry, and then he herds them through the door to catch up with the workmen, which again, the workmen didn't go through the door to 9, so the only other place they could have gone was 13, so that has to be where they went to try to catch up with the workmen.
So maybe that's why the guide is mad, is because he broke the rules and he took 9 to 27 illegally because there's no door to go there.
Took 9 to 27 illegally?
Yeah, and he's mad about that. That's why he wants to catch them, because they took an illegal route from 9 to 27.
Right, I was thinking I'm in the wrong order. Right. That's why he wants the hole filled in.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want them going from 9 to 27.
Yeah.
Not because he doesn't want them going from 27 to 9.
Yeah.
Which is a little goofy because you can't go from 9 to 27 now, but again, it doesn't matter. And I think the fact that there's no pile of dirt here and then the big piles of dirt in 9 confirm that Manson was thinking the same thing. Like he took into consideration the fact that when this hole gets dug, the dirt has to go somewhere, and he put it on the side that makes sense with this solution.
But it also seems like there's way too much dirt in 27. Like there's dirt enough for more than just that one room, which kind of tips me off to to confirm what you just said.
Maybe the workmen in room 9 didn't realize they started digging without knowing where it was going to lead, and that's why it's not moving. Maybe they were just trying to escape.
That's a good point, actually. How would they have? How would he have known? Whoever what? Well, if it was top path, then he knows because his anagram is two path.
So did you have anything else you wanted to share, Vince, or was that the...
I think that's it because I was building up to the... Yeah, I mean, I made some stupid notes, but nothing big. I was just noting other potential rhymes, but they're so... I don't even want to fucking list them. It's so stupid.
No, I think Bills, you hit it on the dial, man. Like you got it with a whole conflict between that. I think we did well tonight, guys. Vince, your solution was groundbreaking. I will remember it forever.
Literally groundbreaking.
Yeah, I hope that was an intentional pun.
No, because I don't think I've seen anybody mention that shit on Abyss or anywhere else. Like I think the interconnectivity of rooms, as it's called on Abyss, I think, which by the way I created that for him. I told him to create it. No boasting here, but that's what I'm trying to do with Raven, right? Have you ever played those old mud games? I know, Vince, you're old enough for that. Remember the mud games where you would go into different dungeons and, like, if you go into a room, then that room is revealed to you, but it's not revealed to you unless you go in that room. That's what I'm trying to do with Raven. I'm trying to get him to reveal as much as possible by poking at the darkness, right? And, like, trying to get... And, you know, either it's rock hard and I don't get there, or it's soft and I make a little bit of headway there. And it's like... I think with the interconnectivity of rooms, the fact that he created a section on his site, I think there's something real there. Like, maybe he knows about this, right? Maybe
Well,
that's why he to create that section.
At least means that he agrees that there is relevant stuff about the interconnectivity of rooms. There's not a whole lot on that site that's helpful yet, though, is there?
Well, the stuff you came up with Top Hat, I think that's the most relevant thing with the interconnectivity of rooms. But I think this is a good one. This would definitely be filed in that category, and I think it's a big one because it shows you the parameters. It shows you more of the parameters of Maze.
Well, there's good inter-room connections, although they usually just go on. If it's just like two rooms, it usually just you can put on one room or the other, like the tortoise and the hare is mentioned in room 20 and room 15.
Yeah.
This could just be mentioned in 27 and 9, but yeah, it's a legit inter-room connection thing. And you know what? Whether it's like we hit it on the head or not on any of this stuff, we do sort of have at least some explanation for just about everything in the room now, it seems like. We've got something to say about everything in the room. That is a good step forward, I think.
Not the battle of the cat.
Well, let's stretch and say that the fat on the sign is supposed to relate to the bat and the cat by door 13 and send you to door 13. That just seems so goofy, though.
No, yeah, you got to substantiate that a little better than that, bro.
What is it? It says F-A-T, and then there's a C-A-T and a B-A-T. Substantiate it. Give me a fucking break.
Okay, well, listen. Okay, cat, bat, that's C-B, and F. F, like, are those letters in any correlation to numbers? Like, does that help us at all?
No, it's just that we're over there by door 13. That's it.
Okay, alrighty. Alright.
That's what the figure is trying to tell them.
That's all it's trying to tell you. Oh, yeah. It's like,
maybe that's what the hermit's looking at, because he's looking down a little. He's looking down too much to look at the sign. I don't know that he's looking down enough to
don't look at anywhere. He's blind.
He can see through that stupid blindfold. It's a white blindfold. Who puts a white blindfold on somebody? Read through it.
Yeah, he was late to a toga party.
Oh, so is that what we've got? I think I'm pleased with what we did there.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
I don't know whether we got anything there or not, but I think we've given people.
Oh! We didn't talk about everything. What about the acorns? What about the acorns next to the club? Or sorry, next to the spade at the top of 13?
Yeah,
What are
I
those?
always thought they looked kind of like urns or something, but I know what you're talking about. I don't know what the deal is with those things, man. I did notice when we were talking about the shape of the sign that says 13 that it does cast a shadow that touches, one tip of it touches the spade and the other sort of points up towards one of those acorn urn things, but I don't
Yeah.
know if it means anything.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to say. I think there's a lot of debate about shadows in the maze between us.
Well, I'm sure they mean something somewhere. And the shadow of the hermit in the middle there seems.
Oh, that's undoubtable. Yeah, I think that's legit for sure.
Well, who doesn't think that? It's your
Who?
old buddy WR. Or at
Well,
least he doesn't like the pointing at the spade thing.
You might
Which,
like the.
oh, come on. The pointing of the spade and it relates to the other spade, that is so. How could he not? How could he not?
I don't know.
It's a low risk room.
You would like.
It seems pretty solid, but maybe there's something better going on. I don't know. Yeah, and to put, I guess Andrew mentioned it, but to put together the point of door 13 having all those suits on it is just, hey, the statue is from a card. This has all this card stuff on it, so that's how they relate to each other. Ta-da!
Yeah. And of course, where the heart is, that's where you should be going. You can't access it because it doesn't have a number on it. But I think that's sort of symbolic. Like where the heart is, it's like closer to where you should be. That's where you should be going, but you can't get there because there's no number on it. But it is the correct door. It's the only unmarked door in the room.
Yeah, I mean, that could be another,
So it's
that could be
20.
another one-step clue. Kind of like
Yeah,
how...
I mean, I'm just theorizing. I'm just saying, like, why would he have used those? He could have used the heart in space of the spade, but he put the heart closer to the actual true room that you should be going to that you can't access. I always thought there's that arch under the heart. It sort of looks like a Quaker hat if you look at it upside down.
Okay.
I don't know where I'm going with that, but it's like a Quaker hat. Yeah.
Or a traffic cone, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how you know you can't go through the door.
All right. Well, let's not get into a maze haze here.
All right, yeah. No one wants to-
How long?
it's just-
What are we on the clock? Are we half an hour? 45 minutes?
I don't know. This doesn't give me a running clock, but I just have to know when did we... we're not in an hour yet, but we're probably about 45 minutes. We should probably discuss what we're going to do next week, and then maybe that's call it a night.
Can we please do a little bit of 6, at least in part?
Let's do your 6 episode. Let's do 6 and 35 in an episode.
I'm probably not going to be around next week, which is too bad because I don't want to miss this 6 business.
Well, no, it doesn't have to be Friday like we've been discussing. I don't really like Fridays. I prefer the beginning of the week if it's possible. Vince said that he's sort of mercurial in the sense he plays it week by week. So,
I don't mean... I mean, I'm probably the most available of everybody, I think, except that I can't do it earlier than my kids go to bed. But beyond that, like pretty much every night of every week for the rest of my life, I'm not going to be leaving. So
okay, well, I'm cool with that. I'm down with Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays. Those are my favorite days to do it.
but the reason why I said go week to week is just so that we're not scheduling in a way that excludes somebody all the time. We might not be able to get everybody in every time, but we don't want to say, okay, we're going to do it Mondays at 10 o'clock, and then anytime.
No. I'm totally fine with that. Totally fine with that. That's fine. Because I want to include as many people as possible every week, obviously.
Okay. Whoops.
Gentle viewers.
Gentle.
And
All right,
Gentile.
so next time we're going to do 6 and 35. We'll figure out when we're going to be able to do that and try to keep Andrew involved. Hopefully, we'll get Greg back.
To sing for us.
Yeah, we haven't heard his his lovely
Telephone.
pipe for for been close to a month now. We miss you, Greg.
Yeah,
We
bro.
really do, Greg. This one's for you, Greg. All right. Good night, gentle viewers. We'll see you next week.